Okay, movies take a long time to review, and I don't want to go back to monthly uploads. So for now, I'm going to push forward a video I had planned to make after what I've been working on. And this episode is pretty much made in response to people like me. Well, not me specifically, but people who criticise Friendship is Magic. And this one's a real popcorn earner. Salted popcorn. This episode starts with Twilight being hit with cake. Let them eat pretzels.
Tula-rula, coconut cream, what are you doing?
Tula-rula? Why does that name sound familiar?
So you see, friendship isn't always easy, but there's no doubt it's worth fighting for.
If everyone loved each other, the world would be a better place, huh? Twilight remembers her lesson from somewhere, so goes to her library to see if she can find where from. And it turns out it was from that book way back in season 4.
It's filled with all the things we've learned, like friendship isn't always easy, but there's no doubt it's worth fighting for.
Yeah, it seems to be a book from the time machine. Twilight shows the book to her friends, and I thought Emmy Larson left. Anyway, Starlight Glimmer shows them a spell to make copies of the book.
A perfect copy!
I learned the spell years ago when I needed to make copies of a certain manifesto.
Remember Starlight Glimmer was a villain? Remember how she was reformed? Remember how that's your favourite thing ever? You should love Starlight Glimmer. Love her. Love her. Love her. Okay, as much as I, and probably other people, rag on Starlight Glimmer, the problem is she's a token character. She's little more than a reformed villain who announces how much of a villain she was and why she was a villain at every turn. Which is a shame for Kelly Sheridan, because the problem with Starlight Glimmer is a writing problem that's nearly 3 years old. Starlight was introduced as this really cool, interesting character at the start of season 5. But then the writers seemed to get cold feet halfway through the season and changed her into this bland character just to suit an episode. And now they're presenting her as this interesting character that we should give offerings of salt to, but we can't because the writers made her boring. Twilight decides to publish their journal. I don't see that going horribly wrong, especially since they're public figures. Of course, all the bookstores are willing to sell the personal diary of a princess.
So, what did you think of the lessons?
Oh, we haven't read them. These are keepsakes. We gotta keep them in mint condition.
So they didn't read the book, and yet they're fans of the book. Did you ever hear that story about the woman who became a juror and turned up in a Star Trek uniform? There are some things about fandoms that I'll never understand.
Don't worry, Twilight. I'm sure lots of other ponies are being inspired to be better friends.
Can that which is unsavoury be eaten without salt? Or is there any taste in the white of an egg? Basically, get ready to eat your words.
Who does she think she is? Certainly she did a fine job setting up the Ponyville Days celebration, but does she really believe it was a success just because of her? The nerve!
You know, the rule of the internet, and the show's creators, is probably expecting me to fill this with a bunch of only my opinion qualifiers. I am Lot's wife. However, I will be fair. Because some of the criticism this show gets is really dumb. Like that time people said MLP needs more male characters. Yes, because there isn't enough shows with a predominantly male cast. And I think we all remember Tommy Oliver. Click here to skip the bad. Seriously? The thing is, there have been legitimate criticism that seems pointless. Like in the early seasons where people pointed out the animation errors. But since then they've addressed that and the show has gotten better.
Huh? We don't want to hear her boring lessons. Come on, tell us again about when you met Daring Do.
Wait, doesn't most of Equestria think Daring Do is fictional? Wouldn't that lesson put her in a straitjacket and a padded cell? Although I'm kind of wondering if the fillies saying they ripped out the Twilight pages are meant to be a jab at people saying they skip certain episodes, or they avoid episodes that focus on a particular character. I avoid the season finales because To Wear Him Back Again made me want to stop watching this show, because it seemed as though they were making a fan favourite character generator rather than a good episode. I'm not denying there are those who skip episodes for silly or petty reasons, but most who skip episodes, it's because those episodes weaken the show for them. And painting people who do that as children is salty and pretty much telling them how they should be enjoying this show if you think about it. And that brings us on to the most contentious part of this episode. Fluttershy. This character, who has a glass of salt water as a cutie mark, wants to know,
We want to know why Fluttershy keeps learning the same thing over and over again. Be assertive already!
Listen up. I am more assertive. And yes, it took me a while to get there. But can you honestly say that you could learn something one time and completely change who you are?
didn't she have a massive hallucination in Philly Vanilli over her stage fright? And then in It Ain't Easy Being Breezy, she became assertive. That's like 2 episodes later. I don't know about you, but I'd call that pretty fucking sudden.
Rarity, are you alright? Ah! What are you doing? Why, I'm creating a gown, darling.
That is awesome! Although is Rarity meant to represent the creators of MLP? She seems to take the criticisms the hardest out of all of them. It even seems to affect her job. I know there are those people who say they need to get a thicker skin if it is. However, a thick skin is just that. Thick. It's not infinite. And working in the public, in real life, not on the internet, I know what people can be like when they think they can get away with it. So even the thickest skin gets worn down, and if there is anyone who doesn't like Rarity's part in this, then I'd say that they are the salty ones who need to grow up. Applejack then arrives.
What's the matter, Applejack?
I'm popular, Twilight. I'm popular and I don't like it one bit.
Do you think at school Applejack was the shy kid who didn't want to get involved in things? Oh great. Applejack is a reformed villain. Anyway, it turns out that Sweet Apple Acres is overrun with family members. I can't tell if this is meant to represent people who say Lauren Faust's vision to criticise the show, or if it's meant to be a commentary on people shipping characters together and making offspring of those ships. If it's the former, then yes, that's a stupid complaint. Although if it's the latter, then that's a really salty hill to die on. But if you think about it, they're sticking apples over their cutie marks. That's really fucked up. The main six all end up taking refuge in Twilight's castle.
I don't know what I'm gonna do if I have to defend myself one more time.
Good. Good. Let the salt flow through you.
It's not your fault. It's every pony else's. They're just focusing on the wrong things.
You can't exactly tell people what to focus on. If they're focusing on the wrong things, then either the wrong thing is something that's important to them, or you did a bad job at making them focus on the right thing. Twilight heads out to try to talk to the ponies gathered outside her castle.
Well, sure. I read this journal cover to cover, and I have to say your character would have been much more interesting if she'd stayed in Canterlot.
My character? We are real ponies.
Real ponies? Then does that mean that I'm not real? Or maybe I'm the one being watched by pastel ponies? And this world is... salt. Although where's the other princesses in all this? Aren't they in the diary? They then sing a song and... let your conversation always be full of grace, seasoned with salt.
We're not flawless. We're a work in progress. We got dents and we've got quirks, but it's our flaws that make us work.
If that's true, then could you please stop making the same mistakes over and over? Reusing character backstories, fucking up heavier subject matter, taking cool ideas and turning them into meme machines, taking something fictional or an ancient history and putting it into a show proper, skewing episodes into the friendship solves everything lesson, having Celestia, Luna and Cadence go down like a bag of salt every time Equestria is attacked. By the way, these are all writing problems. Salt, 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 wonderful salt, 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 salt. The song goes about as well in the crowd as anyone who watches this episode.
Girls, I found 2 ponies who have something I think you should hear.
We just wanted to say thank you to all of you.
Twinkle Wish Adventure! That's where I remember Tularula from. And because I know someone will bring it up, yes, Coconut Cream was in Dancing in the Clouds. And you can tell they're G3 ponies by all the colours. And that's Fame and Misfortune. A really salty way of dealing with criticism. Which seems to be the point of this episode, a response to the criticism they've gotten over the years. I will give them that a lot of the criticism they get is nonsense. but a lot of people point out flaws in the hope that they'll improve in the future. Sure, there are those who just want to tear the show apart, but if everyone is saying the same thing, then maybe something they're saying is legit? The problem is they seem to be painting everyone with the same brush. From trolls on Twitter, to people whose careers are criticising MLP, to people like me. Much of the problems with Friendship is Magic these past few seasons has come down to a writing problem, with many of the writers repeating things that were popular before they repeated it. I'm sure it's hard coming up with new ideas for a show that's past 100 episodes, but anyone who has seen the show can see the patterns. This is less a review of the episode and more a review of the writers of the show. Much like this episode seems less like it's about teaching something and more about defanging the show's critics. I'm not a fan of this episode, however that's not the end of it, because there's a problem with this episode outside of the episode itself that I don't think anyone has brought up, and it's this.
According to M.A. Larson, this episode was written for Season 5 and shelved, and that his original script had a huge number of changes made to it, such as Starlight taking the role that was originally intended for Spike, because of course she did.
That. Spike seems to be the character that the writers know not what to do with. Sure, you get some good episodes, but the problem is that Spike and Starlight Glimmer both seem to occupy the same spot. But Spike has struggled to reach the same level of popularity as even background characters. Not only that, but the writers never seem to have really pushed for more Spike episodes, or given him a bigger role, even where it made sense. Now he can be swapped out at will by a character that the writers more actively push, even where it doesn't make sense. If I was a betting person, I'd say Spike is going to be written out soon. Maybe returning to Dragon Kingdom or something. The only hiccup in that theory is that it's been confirmed that the end of Season 9 will be the Generation 4 finale. So it really won't change the status quo in regards to Spike.